What looks complicated to do but is actually quite easy. Picking a standard pin and tumbler lock. When I was young I tried to spin a ball on my finger and couldn't do it. So I tried again and again. And within an hour I pretty much figured it out. Origami paper cranes. Tying a tie. Excel. If you can use basic logic, and know a couple of powerful formulas, if, index/match, sum, etc., you can perform literal magic in the eyes of your coworkers. Using a PC. I've worked in a training capacity before and I found that most people's problems are not the difficulty, but rather being intimidated and feeling overwhelmed. Especially if you're a bit older and are just now sitting down to learn how to use one. Much like many things, if you take it slow, it's not bad. Once you get the hang of things, it seems silly to have stressed out about it. Solving a Rubik's Cube. I don't know who gave me my first 3x3 cube, but I remember being in the 6th grade watching YouTube videos on how to solve them. Once I understood how the algorithms worked, it was just a matter of memorizing them. Once you memorize them, it's game over. I remember showing all my friends how I could solve it with my eyes closed. They were shocked, as were my parents. The more impressed they became, the more worried I was that they would find out how easy it was. LOL. Middle school was fun. 2nd grade me, learning to read an analog clock. Shuffling a deck of cards. Replacing parts on modern appliances such as dishwashers and clothes washers. 90% of them are plug and play. If you know what the problem is, you can figure out what part you need from the net, order it online, and replace it yourself with minimal effort. Save yourself hundreds of dollars, and feel like a boss. Copying posts that reached top of the month but slightly changing the question to get gold. Baking. Can you follow a recipe? Can you measure? Can you time things with a clock? Then you can bake. Not saying it doesn't take a tremendous amount of skill to become a great baker, but to make things like cookies or cakes that aren't from a mix, it's not that complicated, yet everyone is amazed when you do it. Active listening. It's just listening to what people say to you and asking questions. You don't even have to ask hard questions. Sometimes you can just say something like, "Wow, that seems .. and it validates how they're feeling and makes them feel like you care. Because trust me, even the most oblivious of people tend to notice when people's eyes glaze over, even if they don't call you on it. Fuck up your entire life. Ruining a pre-programmed light board for theater plays. It's hitting one button over and over on cue. Embroidery. Looks complicated but is easy. Asterisk Rubik's Cube. Asterisk Minesweeper. Asterisk Disassembling firearms. Easy to do but hard to learn. Asterisk Flying. Asterisk Some types of writing. Asterisk Playing a music instrument. Driving stick, easiest thing ever once you're used to it. Checking a thread to see if someone already posted the same response. Looking at you. Rubik's Cube nerds. Latte art, making a heart with steamed milk just takes practice. Building computers. It's just adult Legos. Walking, it's a 2-step process. Apparently using your turn signals. Being a lawyer. It's 99.99% admin and filing stuff. If you've ever watched an office clerk work, you're basically a lawyer. Obviously I'm not talking about advocates who go to court. There's some thinking on your feet that happens there, but even then, less than what shows make you think. Mostly just boring document discovery, etc. The big surprise reveals you often see in legal dramas are literally illegal to do in court. Also approaching the bench when not asked by the judge, etc. Mostly a tedious, mundane job, and most lawyers I know are terrified of becoming obsolete because, well, they already kind of are. Source: Lawyer. Reading a manual. It's all in there, really. Every question you've got is answered, if just sit down and read the damn thing. Doing your taxes if you don't need to itemize your deductions or use a 1099. Organization. So many times I looked at all the shit I had and didn't know where to even start or where to put it. But once I just took everything out so that I organized by scratch and changed my mindset, it was surprisingly easy and felt amazing. KonMari method FTW. Butterfly knife tricks. After a little practice you can do them in your sleep, and they look way harder than they are. Typing. Handyman work. You obviously need some skill, but with some help of YouTube, some tools, and the internet, you can save hundreds in house stuff that doesn't necessarily require a professional to do it. Sewing is actually quite easy. Martial arts. Seems impossible at first. Once you get the basics down, it really comes down to consistency and repetition. If you're willing to put the time in, you can obtain a black belt. Anything involving video game mapping or 3D animation. In about under a dozen YouTube tutorials that simply tell you how to use the user interface of whatever program you're using, you can basically learn how to use it. Problem is, it's very time consuming to do these things if you care at all about detail. In 3D animation, for example, you can spend 16 hours on a project only to have 10 seconds of animation done. Or 10 rooms of a map properly complete. But being time consuming and even seriously boring past hour 8 or so is not exactly the same thing as being hard. I think anyone's capable of doing it if they dedicate enough time to their projects. Taking apart, rebuilding or modifying a car or truck engine. I've been in 2 training courses, one for Scania and one for car engines. One of the things people first think usually is where to start, but once you get the flow, it's an easy task. Solving 90% of IT problems. And number X200B. It mostly just equates to Googling the issue and using solutions people who have came before have came up with. And number X200B. That last 10% is the tricky part though. Building a PC. It's literally putting things where they fit. People who aren't into tech stuff, so most likely no one that uses Reddit, think that they're gonna put stuff in the wrong way and break it, but you'll notice you're doing it wrong because it just doesn't fit. DJing is pretty simple, producing is where it gets hard. Quilting. Making a quilt is so fricking easy and looks incredible. If you can sew a straight line, you can make a quilt. It's so satisfying too, and while it is in fact a bit time consuming, if you have the patience to see it through, it's a fantastic gift. The bigger your quilt is, the greater the challenge, but that's just because you have a lot of fabric to handle, not because it goes up in difficulty. Difficulty comes from piecing odd angles together more than anything else. Mildly relevant, but I have to share this. Nuclear reactors are just steam engines. The heat energy from nuclear fusion boils water, the pressurized steam then passes through a turbine. It is that simple. Unlike most people tend to believe, there is no complicated science behind the extraction of energy. Sharpening a knife with a whetstone. Yet it takes a little bit of finesse to do, but if you passed middle school geometry and remember a basic understanding of what a right angle is and how to cut that in half, you'll have sharp knives again in no time. Being there for someone. Most people always know that one person who always knows exactly what to say to cheer someone up or help someone through a tough time, and you probably wonder, man, how do they do that so easily? It's really not hard, just listening and honestly and openly talking to someone can do wonders. You'd be amazed how much you can actually help. Flying an airliner around the world. So many buttons, so many switches. It's only really tricky when things start to go wrong, and that's when I start to earn my pay. Apparently using the correct way of your learning how to code in HTML. Once you get it down, you can do it in your sleep. Being kind? It's literally the smallest things like opening a door or compliments. I strongly suggest people to try it, makes a huge difference. Sorry for all the typos, English is not my main language. Rhythm games. They are super hard at first, but they get easier once you work at it. 1 song a day is enough. Edit, formatting, on mobile. When you truly get over the fear of failure of perfectionism, you might be surprised how much you are capable of. The game of rugby. It looks really complicated on TV, but the general rules and gameplay is pretty intuitive and straightforward. Some of the rules can be a bit complicated and take a while to learn, but that's what the ref is for, and you learn as you go. When I played for American teams growing up, usually 80 to 90% of the team was first-timers, and then when I coached in college it was the same deal. You can make someone a really decent rugby player in just a few weeks, especially if they're fit and not scared of the contact. Not being an entitled asshole. Reading and writing Korean. Bowling properly. The technical side of bowling becomes shrouded in terms like oil patterns, hook patterns, Brooklyns, but when you break it down you just gotta reach the foul line at the same time as your ball. Chopsticks. Cooking. Like, okay, I'm not talking chop style cooking. I mean your average at home type. It's really not as hard as a lot of people think. Guitar. Easy to learn, hard to master. According to Mumbo, all of his contraptions. Drawing the cool S. Cartwheel. Hand sewing. You cut a long piece of string, tie a knot in one end, thread it through the needle, then sew at the edge of whatever it is needs sewing. It just takes patience. Play Dark Souls. Your mom. Changing a wheel on a car. Being judged as a human being over a minor inconvenience or a personal mistake. I really hope that this video helped you to get started on your goals. Remember, nothing is difficult. It is all about the technique. Welcome to Reddit Wisdom. Subscribe to discover more useful pearls from Reddit. Have a great day.